What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls commentary. Alright guys, this time we're just going to switch it up. No duels in the MLB, no PvPing with friends. This time we're in the arena, right? And as you know, me, just like many others, hadn't played Dark Souls in a long time, let alone the arena. But, after doing invasions and kind of getting bored with that, I figured I'll, just go by the arena and see how far that I could get. Now, during this particular run, I was able to get up to 35. All right, not bad for not playing in a long time, but it's also not the best. And after having the experience that I did, I realized that I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. So this video is basically going to be for a lot of you guys who are looking to get yourself as high as you can on the leaderboards. So I'm basically going to just review some of the mistakes that I made, some of the things that I missed. So hopefully you will be more prepared than I was when I went. All right, so first and foremost, I think the most important thing for you guys to consider is obviously what kind of build you want to make. What bracket do you intend to compete in? Because there's a 1 to 50 bracket, a 51 through 100 bracket, and then I believe there is a 101 to 200. I believe 200 is the max, and I'm not sure about the bracket after that. So I think it would be advantageous for all of you guys, if you plan on going there, to basically level your character to the highest level within that bracket. Within my bracket is level 100, so obviously I'm 100. If I wanted to be a little more try-hard, I would probably make a 200 character, because I would be at the very top of that bracket. All right, so I can basically maximize my vitality, perhaps have some spells, maybe some great combustions, or whatever else that would allow me to be utilized in the 200 bracket. Okay, so after you decide what bracket you want to participate in, I think the next thing that's important is figuring out what kind of build you want to make and some considerations. One example, so I'm using a vitality gouge build. So I have 75 in vitality, 12 attunement, 16 strength, 13 dexterity, and I believe 14 or 15 in faith, something like that. Now, the downside to my particular build is I do not inflict a lot of damage. If you guys are paying attention to my backstabs with the Falcon, for example, I think they're like less than 500 damage. And I'm pretty sure that that's mainly because I'm using elemental weapons. That's the downside. High vitality, but I inflict low damage. But, that was a risk that I was willing to take. Because I knew to myself that there will be a lot of players who have heavy investments in strength and dexterity, but assuming we just take 1-to-1 trades, I would win every time because I have nearly 2,300 health points. So that was one of the compromises that I made. Other players, perhaps, like for example, if I were to go pure physical, I would probably go 2840, right? And actually, no, I probably wouldn't even do that. If I were to do a physical build, I would probably run a 1645 with a Chaos Blade, Darkwood Grain Ring, maybe a couple casts of Black Flame, right? And as much health as possible. And I think I would favor that over the 2840 because obviously the Chaos Blade is high damaging. Quick recovery when it comes to swing speeds. When you miss a swing, you're less likely to be punished. And I've always said, I've said this for years, that even though there's nothing wrong with it, katanas are basically, dude, it's a simpleton peon weapon in my opinion. I mean, even a monkey can use that. Because if you cannot be good with a katana, you're just bad, dude. I mean, it is what it is. You're bad. Quick swing speeds. Fast recovery in the event that you miss a swing. high damaging, specifically with the Chaos Blade. You cannot go wrong, and it inflicts bleed. So if I were to do a different type of build, I would probably do, as I said before, 16 in strength, 45 in dex, probably 12 attunement to have maybe black flame or something like that, and the rest in vitality. That's what I would do for a physical. Now, a lot of you guys, maybe you want to go, you know, I ran into some Havel moms, I ran into some giant dads, I ran into some pyro characters, you know, I ran into some super casual characters, you know, with 0 poise, you know, and that was good for them. But I mean, if you're really trying to get as high as you can in the leaderboards, I mean, unless you're like the god of toggling, you know, like that sorcerer in Darkroot Garden, you know, unless you're that good at toggling, you know, I would suggest that you guys really pay close attention to the Poise breakpoints with your builds before you go there. Now, speaking of Poise breakpoints, now I don't have the chart in front of me. You know, I know you guys can easily look up the chart. But one thing that I know is a lot of guys from Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, you guys' quote-unquote Poise system is much different than the Poise system that we have here in Dark Souls. Now, again, as I don't have the chart in front of me, I'm going to give you a few numbers to remember when it comes to making your builds. Because, you know, I'm not trying to be funny. I know there's a lot of inexperienced players out there, but it's always funny to me whenever I see a player with like mommy mask, you know, giant chest, giant arms, giant legs with a wolf ring. It's like, dude, why do you need giant chest, arms, and legs with a wolf ring? And the only thing that I can think of is maybe they're inexperienced Dark Souls players who do not understand what the Poise ranks are. So I'm just going to review them as far as I remember, right? Because there were always like 4 numbers that I always remembered when it came to making my builds. The first number you need to think of is 76. 76 is a breakpoint. 76 will allow you to poise through a 2-handed R1 from an ultra great sword, great axes, and great blunt weapons. You know, the great hammers and stuff like that. 76. I'm not really sure what the one-hand breakpoints are, so you guys are just going to have to check Reddit or GameFAQs or Fextra Life or something like that. Excuse me. The great Asian swords, you know, the Murakumo. I believe the server also falls in that category, and the Gravelord sword. I believe those in order to poise through a 2-handed R1, I believe is 56, 55, or 56. So if you see someone with a Murakumo, as long as you have at least 56, you'll be able to poise through that first hit. 53 is the next group, and that is for a 2-handed R1 from great swords, blunt weapons, and axes. 2-handed blunt weapons, 2-handed axes. And then there's either 31 or 32, and with that poise break you will be able to poise through a 2-handed swing from a katana, great scythe, whips, spears, I believe, and a halberd. All right, one swing from those types of weapons. And then the last breakpoint you need to remember is 8, right? And that will allow you to poise through a 2-handed R1 from a rapier, dagger, and fist weapons. So as long as you remember 76, 56 for the great curved swords, 53, 31, and 8, center your builds around those poise breaks, you will be good to go. Okay, so first thing to consider, once again, what group you want to compete in. What type of build that you want to make, right? Do you want to have maximum health, or do you want to maximize your damage output? Also, how proficient you are in the game will largely determine how much poise you will have, right? Because you don't want to, like in other words, In my opinion, it's a waste of a ring slot to have a mommy mask, giant chest, giant arms, giant legs with a wolf ring. Like, why do you really need that? It's a waste of a ring slot. You could probably use red tearstone, you know, or hornet ring or Leo ring with that much poise with those 3 pieces. So don't waste ring slots, right? Because you are unaware of the poise system and its breakpoints. So again, you guys can check out Reddit. I'm pretty sure the information is on the internet. This game is like 7 years old. Just look it up. Okay, so that's build types, poise breakpoints. Now, another thing, as I discussed in my last video, if you guys do not like backstabs, if you guys do not know how to avoid chain backstabs, please watch a lot of videos on how to avoid these things before you go to the arena. Because again, one thing that I believe is that each player should duel like a duelist and invade like an invader. Anytime I am not PvPing with friends, I play as much of, well, I can't really say that, because when I'm dueling, I don't. When I'm dueling, I'm trying to learn things, right? I'm not trying to basically two-shot everyone, because I'm really trying to learn things, practice my timing, my spacing, and everything else. Now, during random invasions, during force hunting, during the arena, I play like as much of a dick as possible. Speaking of which, for all you noobs out there, dude, don't bow in the arena, right? You bow to me, you're getting backstabbed flat out. Do not bow in the arena. It's competition. I'm not your friend. Everyone's trying to get as high as they can on the leaderboards. Do not bow. Okay, let's go through some other considerations. You guys need to really think about the type of opponents that you will be facing. Make sure you have your mosses, right? Your poison moss, your toxic moss, you know, your blood moss, your grass. Make sure you have those things. You will run into Gravelord swords that will inflict toxic. And the last thing you want to do is have toxic inflicted and you don't have any moss to prevent it or to get rid of it, right? Some people will try to cheese you out with poison arrows with the composite bow. And if you don't have any moss, you know, you may look at it as, well, I mean, those little peon points, that's not going to do anything. Yeah, it will. In the grand scheme of things, all damage, right, will hurt your forward progress. Let's see. So blood mosses, because there will be a lot of gold tracer builds out there, right? They will Ouroboros you to death with the gold tracer. So be careful for that. Make sure you have your blood mosses, and in extreme cases, have a blood shield. Why not? Be prepared for everything. Make sure you have all the necessary shields. I believe there's like some kind of dragon shield. I think that's good against lightning damage. The crest shield, good against magic. Black Knight shield, that's good obviously against fire. Make sure you have all those shields, because you never know. If you run into a pyromancer, right, quickly pull out your Black Knight shield. If you run into some kind of annoying mage who's constantly spamming, you know, homing crystal soul mass and is chipping through your shield, well, hey, pull out the crest shield. You have to be prepared for all these things. Now, some other considerations. Just because you guys may be a physical build, do not rule out some of the benefits from miracles and pyromancies. Like this nerd. Like, why is that guy bowing at me? Right? There's no reason for that guy to bow. That's going to be one free BS for me, right? And I don't care how much you see a video and flame my comment section and tell me how, you know, how not honorable I am. But anyway, so think about some of these things. Like, for example, I'm a vitality gouge, right? But I still have 14 faith, so I can have 2 uses of the Great Heal Excerpt. And that improves my survivability. Now think about this. Even if you're better, quote unquote, than your opponent, and when you die, you know, by the time you come back, you notice that your opponent has full health, well, guess what? You're at a huge disadvantage because you took little things like this for granted. So don't take these things for granted. Let's just say you run into a lot of, maybe a lot of pyro guys. Don't be afraid to bring flash sweat, right? It'll greatly reduce the damage. Let's just say you are maybe a cleric, right? There'll be a lot of sorcery nerds, a lot of caster nerds out there. Dude, bring out that great magic barrier. Why not? All right, you need to think about all possible enemy types that you'll be facing in that arena. So shields, castings, miracles, pyromancies, anything that will help your survivability, make sure you bring it. Another thing that I would say, bring several armor types of your preferred set. So in this particular run, I think I got stopped at 35, right? So I had 35 consecutive wins. Number one, I wasn't really prepared. And the next time I go to the arena, best believe I'm going to be more prepared than I was during this run. And one thing that I was not prepared for is once I got to like my 33rd consecutive win, guess what? My armor started breaking. And when I noticed that my mommy mask broke, I'm like, holy crap, I don't have another mommy mask in my inventory. So the next time I go, guess what I'm going to do, noobs? I'm going to have, 2 or 3 mommy masks. And probably a second armor set of a second set of my preferred armor set, which is, night chest, night arms, night legs. I think I have like 38 poise. Because by the time I basically got kicked out the arena, I went and, repaired all my armor, and I noticed that my chest piece was almost broken as well. So it's actually a good thing that, I got kicked out the arena when I did, because I was not prepared for that. So keep that in mind. If you guys put your build together, you're brushing up on your chain BSs and your, how to prevent chain BSs, and, you tighten up on all that. Make sure you bring several armor sets. Because if you guys look at the leaderboard, you're going to notice some of the guys with a lot of consecutive wins, guess what? They don't even have any clothes on. And the reason why they don't have any clothes on is because their armor broke. So that's one less thing you want to have to worry about. Make sure you bring repair powders, right? Because another thing you don't want to have to be stressing out about is all your weapons breaking. Now, luckily with my character, I have 2 claymores, right? A lightning, a chaos. I have 2 halberds, lightning and chaos. So I had pretty much 2 of everything. And I think 2 of everything is enough, especially when your weapons have that repair powder. So I think that is about it. I think I pretty much covered everything. The first thing that you want to do is think about what bracket you want to compete in. Think about what type of build that you want to make, right? Depending upon what type of build you want to make, maybe you might want to make small investments in attunement, so you can use perhaps some type of miracle that heals. Maybe you want to bring some black flame, so you can spam flame, like the pros do. Perhaps if you're fearful of, maybe you're not quite sure on how to dodge dark bead, maybe you want to make sure that you're going to bring great magic barrier. So I think I covered everything. Poise breaks, build types, what bracket you want to compete in, mosses, don't forget your mosses. And everything else, hey, it's just all about practicing your PvP. Now, some of the biggest problems that I had when I was there, the Havel moms, I ran into some Havel moms, right? Make sure you bring a weapon to try to space them out, right? Because a lot of them just BS fish, and a lot of them are extremely aware of the poise breaks. And if you go there, try to R1, you try to R1 a Havel mom with a 2-hand hand axe, you're gonna get poise BS'd, right? So you can't really cry and complain about poise BSing when you don't understand the poise breaks. So make sure you have ranged weapons. Make sure you have a wide variety of weapons to prepare you for each situation. I ran into a lot of Ouroboros noobs, you know, with their little gold tracers. Make sure you have your red mosses for those. Those were basically they basically gave me the biggest problems. But once you know how to play against those type of guys, because most Havel moms, all they do is, you know, BS fish. So if you're good on preventing chains, if you're good on backpedaling, you know, they're going to have a harder time than they anticipated. So I think that's about it. So, hey, until next time, Martyr's Brigade is